Hi, I'm Brian Mendenhall. I'm a lead animator at Tippett Studio.
And I'm Jim Brown, animation supervisor at Tippett Studio. We're here to answer some questions and talk about some things. And first thing is workflow. I know a lot of times we're asked, what's your workflow?
I think the most important thing about workflow is that, number one, you're always sort of trying to redevelop it. You know what I mean? You don't always stick to one thing forever. You want to not only keep your animation fresh, and you want to stay, competitive with other animators around you. So you're constantly always trying to change things up, see if you can do things better, faster, and honestly keep yourself sane. Because if you can figure out a way to do something better and skip over some step that was giving you trouble on your last shot, then your shot's going to go smoother. You're going to be happier. And so I think we're always trying to redevelop what we do.
Kind of evolve. You don't want to be stuck in the same rut. The main thing, though, is just to always remember is to your principles of animation. Because regardless of whether you're doing pose to pose or layering your animation or whatever, you still got to worry about weight and timing and all the basics that get you a solid performance.
And the one other thing that, I think going away from that, the one thing that you would never change is to work cleanly.
Yes.
That's one thing I've stuck with, and I don't think I'll ever try to change that.
But for example, on the dragon that I animated, and the first thing I did, which was flying, which is totally different, like a character walking, the main thing I focused on was the path, the flight path of the dragon, and less about his poses immediately. I just put him in a flying pose and kind of got through what, to me, felt like a good path of animation. This feels like good weight and timing when he turns up, and how to get his general rotations going. Which normally I don't do that. If I'm doing like a quadruped or an acting bit or something, I'm heavily pose to pose. But this was like pose to pose isn't going to work because I really want to get the distance and the speed to feel right first. So it's finding your priority, focusing on that, and then kind of evolving to get it in. What do you like for you? Do you do anything different?
On the flip side, when I'm at work, we're usually doing things a bit layered, and we're usually doing full body and translational passes and never using stepped. This one I was using it for a demo, and I wanted to have the ability to talk to other animators about key poses. And again, the most important thing, working very cleanly. My blocking was actually in stepped. I kept those poses for as long as possible. And then I start to block out my body when I go from stepped into spline. I always start big to small. So for me, I'll take the overall body translate of the character, and I will make that as splined and as smooth as possible. Then, say the chest and the hips or necks, they're sort of smaller. Those ones will get a little bit more of a detail pass, which isn't necessarily big, weighty spline tangents, but little linear tangents. And then further and further down, the further away I get from the core of the body, the more keys I'm adding, and the more they're just linear and thrown in place to work.
Doesn't matter how your workflow is, there's so many ways. Just make sure you ask somebody if you're confused or if you want to make it better. And
one of the most important workflow things to understand is that you need to know what your workflow is. Figure out what it is and then try that. The worst thing you can do is just try stuff because you're I'm confused, I'm lost, I don't know what I'm doing next. When you're in a blocking pass, always make sure that you've got a clear idea of what you're going to be doing next, and you'll probably succeed.
Yeah. So good luck.